Okay, welcome everybody to the presentation for 2026, our Reset, Revive, and Refer. I'm testing my microphone now, so I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. And I also have the chat window up to make sure that everybody can see my screen. So I'm going to ask if the participants can hear me or can see my screen. Okay, and I'm going to type the same message on the chat window. Can you see my screen and hear my audio? Question mark. All I know we have participants that have joined us, but I'm not convinced that you can see my screen or hear my audio. Well, let me check again. Testing, testing. All right. Catherine, Rosa, I think you were the first two in. Can you see the screen? Can you hear my audio? And hopefully, can you see the chat window? Oh, Catherine has her hand raised. I think you can. Okay, so let's see. Rosa, I actually turned on your audio if you have your microphone turned on.
Yes, I don't see anything in the chat, but I hear you and I see your screen.
Okay, that's curious.
Thank you.
Let me
Yeah,
make sure that all panelists. Okay, testing.
thank you.
I'm going to test the chat window. Okay, now everybody
Got
should
it.
really see it.
Yeah,
Excellent.
got it.
Uh,
Thank you.
Okay, so we are recording. I'm going to, let's see. There we go. I'm going to begin the presentation. We are recording, and there we go. So for anybody that's not able to attend today's presentation, don't worry, we are recording and we're going to send a link out. So for 2026, Shortcuts wants to make sure that all of the salons, all of the spas, and all of the barber shops get off to the right foot. So we're also going to bring up the Switch Zone, the campaign that we're working on this year. So my name is Noah. I'm the educator with Shortcuts North America. As with our other presentations, we are recording. We do have our audio turned on. I do have everybody else muted. But if you have any questions, please save it for the end. I will take questions through the chat window. So hopefully on the toolbar, you see the chat button. So if anything comes up or if you have to leave, don't worry, we will send out a link. So the presentation, why this webinar? The first 2 months of the year pretty much help set up the direction that the business is going to go through. So regardless of if you have a barber shop, a spa, or a salon, there is a lot of common ground that we want to make sure that we cover so that this year and this first quarter is fairly productive for you. So of course, for most of us, for most of the businesses that we're working with, this is the quietest time of the year. So this is your chance to look at your inventory, look at your employees, look at your menus, and start making adjustments. So we definitely want to view or review the processes that we're using at the salon to see if there's a better way that we can approach things. And of course, look at our prices, considering how the economy grows or falls depending on how things are going. So it's not necessarily one or two things, it's a number of little changes that you could be doing to help ensure that you have a successful year. And of course, usually most of the companies that we work with, they get super busy at the end of the year. But if you can set up things to ensure that you're going to have a very productive holiday season in 2026, you actually want to start now. So where's one of the places that we can begin? So the first are some features that we have in shortcuts that, believe it or not, some of our customers that have been using shortcuts for years aren't even aware of. So one of them are major changes that we did to the cloud. So hopefully most of the people that are viewing this video or watching it later already have cloud access, already know how to log into the system and all the features of that. But with that said, we did clean up the interface and we did add some features early this year. We're looking at a new touch tip, a cleaned up, simplified touch tip that has a number of features added to it. So these are things like related services. So were you aware that if you're allowing customers to book online, that you can also recommend services to them or attach services? So if you're a salon, for example, and you don't necessarily have a shampoo or a blow dry connected to a haircut or a hair color, you do have the ability in online booking to, when a customer books a service, you can say, oh, by the way, I see that you're booking a haircut. Let me recommend a blow dry or a styling service. So that is something that you can configure in the cloud. So those are related services. We've got a new interface for the touch tip. So we always want to make sure that you have access to all of the most common features and shortcuts, whether it's looking up customer history, whether it's adding on a service, whether it's putting in visit notes. So we moved a lot of that functionality in the touch tip. So at the top of the screen, next to the customer's name, you now have a little menu that allows you things like sending a text message to a customer, rescheduling them, sending them forms, and then on the actual status of their visit, have they arrived? Have they confirmed their visit? So we've added those functionalities as well. So if you're logging into the cloud and you haven't logged in since last year, it should look a little bit different when you highlight a customer's name. We've also been moving forward to integrating payments. So these are things like being able to set preferences for customers. Are you keeping a credit card on file for customers? And in particular, if certain customers have perhaps been flaky in the past, are you recording a card because you now have a cancellation policy in place? So for customers that you want to charge them while they're in the chair or to have their card on file, we're making it a little bit easier for you to capture that information in the shortcut point of sale and now in the shortcuts cloud. And we also have some new hardware offerings. So if you're a salon and you've been using the same hardware for a number of years, we do have some new features. So if you're looking at replacing your server, or perhaps replacing a couple of the outdated machines, we do have some new hardware, and you can always ask for customer care for details on that. So these are things that we're featuring this year. So let's talk about specifics. So for 2026, what's one of the first things that you could do for your business to make sure that you're starting off on the right foot? And for most businesses, it's making sure that you clean up your customer database so that you're marketing directly to your most important client. So if you've not set your campaigns up, your set and forget campaigns, your ongoing campaigns, this is the prime time to do it. So in Shortcuts, you'll have the ability to tell Shortcuts to deactivate clients that haven't visited your salon in 4 or 5 years so that you're only reaching your current customers. But with that said, are you using all of your standard campaigns in the cloud? So when somebody makes an appointment, do you have an appointment acknowledgement going out? So that's one of the most basic things. But then there are other campaigns. Whenever you have a new customer, do you have any sort of welcome to Shortcuts message? If you do a referral program, do you have automatic referrals set to go out whenever a new customer is referred? Do you have a birthday campaign set up? If it's a customer's birthday, they would like to receive something in the mail on the day of their birth. And of course, think about all of the seasonal events throughout the year. So this month, you can actually queue up messages ahead of time. You can set up your Mother's Day or Valentine's Day or summer special or fall special or even Christmas campaign and do all of that ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about it as you get busier. So you'll want to look at cleaning up your database, making sure you're capturing the demographics for your customers, and setting up your campaign. So the goal is by doing this, you're going to ensure more bookings from the customers that you already have. So look at your non-returning campaign. In the cloud, you have two versions of these campaigns. The first one is the friendly reminder. So after 6 weeks, Shortcuts can send a message to a customer that says, oh, by the way, it's been a few weeks since your last visit. Please call or use the online booking link to make an appointment. And then there's a second version of that, and that is to capture a historically lost client. So if the customer ignores that first message, and it's actually been closer to 3 months since their last visit, and they don't have a future appointment, Shortcuts can also send them a message to say, hey, it's been a long time since we've seen you. Please call or use the online booking link to make an appointment. So this is a way to recapture a historically lost client. You can also do targeted campaigns. So if you want to have, let's say, a special on certain products, and perhaps Redken, for example, you can tell Shortcuts there is a marketing tool that allows you to tell the Shortcut, I want to send a campaign to customers who have spent more than X amount of dollars on Redken products so that you can offer them some sort of special. So targeted campaigns can also be used for services. So let's say you want to send a message to customers that have only been getting their haircut with you, but have never gotten color with you. You can send a targeted campaign for that. So be sure to set up your non-returning customer campaigns and your targeted campaign. So you want to look for any gaps that you might have before your peak season. So of course, you don't want to wait until the holidays roll around to make sure that you have your campaign set up. So like I said, you could have your Valentine's, your Mother's Day, your Father's Day, your summer special, all of these campaigns queued up ahead of time. And then the Shortcuts cloud, the Shortcuts messaging will automatically send the campaigns that you've queued up ahead of time. So try to find any spaces, any quiet spots that you may have, and start to set up your campaigns ahead of time. So that's strictly for the business. Now, what about the rest of the team? So how do you get them more engaged? How do you get them more involved? In the cloud, you do have the ability to set a target, set a goal for your staff, whether these are things like rebookings, sales totals, sales averages, retail averages. You want to make a goal with them so that they continue to grow, because we don't want the staff, especially if you have younger staff, to become complacent with their numbers, because they should be learning and they should be growing in addition to being more efficient with what they do. So the cloud will allow you to track your key performance indicators for each individual employee and then help create goals for them, help create targets for them. And then they can view their targets on their phone or a mobile device so that they know every week, am I performing as good as I can? Where can I improve? So making sure that they're accountable for their work also helps your business grow. So everything that I'm discussing so far, we do actually have training videos on our new Shortcuts webpage at shortcutsoftware.com. And of course, if you visit our old YouTube channel at Shortcuts USA, we also have our basic how-to videos and classes. So if you've never used Target, if you've never set up campaigns ahead of time, we do have videos. And of course, you can always reach out to the help desk or even myself, and we can always make time for you. So make sure you're focusing on your customers, make sure you're focusing on your business targets, and make sure that you're helping the staff focus on their own individual targets. And by getting in this habit early at the start of the year, then you're helping them build their portfolio, build the experience that they need to be successful. So by doing that, that leads us to helping retain your most valuable employee. So, of course, retention of your staff, retention of your customers, that's what makes or breaks most businesses, whether you're a barber shop, a salon, or a spa. So for the employees, 61% of the salon employees usually leave within their first year. So that is a high turnover rate. So what can we do to try to keep your most talented members on the team? This is where you look at things like what are their rebooking numbers? What are their rebooking percentages? Are they getting a lot of cancellations? So to help the employees, especially the young ones, understand their numbers, we want to look at how they're being scheduled and then how they can be more engaged with the business. So recognizing deficiencies and helping them improve are parts of the ways in which you as a business owner can help retain the staff. So always make sure that you understand the reports and shortcuts, understand the KPIs. So in both the shortcuts point of sale and the shortcuts cloud. So shortcuts will always report the numbers. It will help you look at how they're growing week after week and year after year. So if you have young staff members, make sure that they're engaged in this process as well. So with that said, a lot of the companies that we work with, now is your chance to focus on your retail, to focus on your inventory. Are you tracking your back bar? When was the last time you actually performed an inventory count? So look at the products that are selling, but also look at the products that are not selling. Would this be a chance for you to come up with some sort of campaign or some sort of promotion where you can let some products that you no longer decide to carry go and perhaps have some sort of special or some incentive for both the staff and the clients to purchase those products? So look at bundling products together so you can get rid of any leftover Christmas inventory. So Shortcuts does allow you to create bundles. So rather than selling multiple products with multiple barcodes, you can come up with just one barcode and create a gift basket or some sort of package. And at the point of sale, when the customer buys the New Year's package, that'll include a shampoo, a conditioner, a styling product, perhaps a scented candle. And all of that will be bundled together and removed from your inventory so that you don't have to scan those products one at a time. So again, we do have a class and we do have videos on how to bundle products. So think about, instead of doing discount, creating those as value-driven packages. So instead of necessarily saying, well, if you buy a shampoo, we will offer you a conditioner 50% off. You can instead say, if you buy this 2-pack of shampoo and conditioner, you'll have a savings. Maybe not as much as 50% off, but the customer is drawn to getting multiple for some sort of value. So consider that, especially if you have some inventory that really isn't moving or is extra from the holidays. So, well, the example that we have is if you create a home care set for winter healthcare. So something to think about is how you're tracking your inventory, how you're tracking your retail, and what you could be doing to improve that through 2026. So the good thing about this is by making sure that you do this ahead of time, letting your staff know, letting your front desk know, they're now aware that they could be moving certain products, and that increases your average retail for every customer visit, and it doesn't necessarily cut into your margins, your overhead. So keeping our focus on retail, what are we looking at? So again, Shortcuts works with salons, barbershops, and spas, and the focus for each of those clienteles is a little bit different. So for hair salons, they have about a 15 to 20% of all retail sales. So that can be a make or break for a lot of the businesses that we work with. There are some salons that we work with that their service totals and their service dollars are below industry averages. However, their staff is exceptionally good at upselling products. And when they calculate that into their business totals, they realize that those retail upsells is far above the industry averages. So even though the customer recognizes that they're actually not being charged as much for a hair service as another salon would, they make up the difference in their retail. So for barbershops, it can be very subtle things, a styling product, a beard product. So all of those things also add up because men can be as vain as anybody else. So they want to make sure they look good as well. And of course, our spas, our clinics, they can also have a number of retail products that they could be sharing with customers. Things for skincare after a laser treatment, things for if a customer has a number of the shops that work with Shortcuts, they'll do dermal abrasions or dermabrasion services. Some will do tattooing, things like that. Not just the eyebrows, but actual full-on tattoos. So they want to make sure that they're promoting the correct skin product. So if your business is doing less than 10% of retail as far as its totals go, you're leaving money on the table. You should be a little bit more than that if you want to be considered average for retail for your business. So what about your prices, especially for your inventory? So how do you know what numbers to look at? How do you set yourself up for the rest of the year? So one of the first things you'll want to do is an actual inventory count. If it's been a year or two, or you've never done an inventory count, that should be your top priority. The good thing about Shortcut is you don't necessarily have to do an entire inventory count in one sitting. So some of the salons we work with, they'll have thousands of products, and it would be impossible for the front desk or a few people to even count all of those products within a few hours or a few days. It can take weeks. The good thing about Shortcuts is you can isolate certain products for an inventory count. So if you're only going to count all of the colors that you have from a certain company, you can do that. You can tell Shortcuts, I'm going to do a count, give me a list so that I can track it and then later on return to the system and update my numbers. You can do it by company, you can do it by line, you can do it by product, you can assign the inventory counts to different employees. So that way, by breaking it down over multiple days, multiple staff members, it's easier to get a more accurate count. Once you have an accurate count, you know if the business has lost any products or if by some miracle you have a surplus of products, then you know, okay, now I can start to consider making adjustments on what I'm ordering or where my prices are. So consider what is not moving. Consider where your promotions are going to be. Consider if you had a seasonal uptick, should you plan for this in the future? So for your winter products, usually you go up 5 or 6%. What about during the summer? There are completely different needs, whether it's a hair product, a beard product, a skin product. The the items that you're going to order throughout the year fluctuate. So think about where you need to adjust your numbers throughout the year. And there is a correlation. So if you know where your inventory numbers need to be, your retail numbers need to be, your back bar numbers need to be, then that's going to help make adjustments when you have to do service prices. And I know for most of the businesses we work with, you try not to do annual price increases. You try to keep it for the community, your pricing for as long as you can. But as inflation grows, as the economy changes, you need to make adjustments. So by knowing where your inventory is, including back bar, they will help you plan for when your service totals need to increase. So where else can you be setting up your business to have a more successful 2026? Are you using booking deposit? Have you set up cancellation fees? So this has become a bigger issue for most of the customers that we work with. If you're dealing with a lot of cancellation, a lot of no-shows, then perhaps it's time to consider setting up booking deposits. Now, I know that doesn't happen for all of the companies we work with. Some of the spas we work with, they are more tourist based, so they may not necessarily see the same customers year after year. It's only during a few seasons, and the customers are different every day. But if you have a steady client base and you want to make sure that you're being reasonable with reservations, then take a look at your no-show report and actually see what your numbers are amongst your entire staff and your business. And this will give you an idea of if you're really losing money because of frequency. This will also show us the real cost of no-shows. So whether it's, one person a week or a couple of people every month, you'll have a sense as to, oh, this could have been a commission or an entire salary for an employee for a day or two. So those numbers do add up, and we want you to be mindful of them. So a deposit is a revenue protection strategy. So you don't necessarily have to require customers to have 100% deposit or a 50% deposit. In fact, in Shortcut, you get to pick and choose if a service should require a deposit. So for something like a haircut, perhaps you don't historically have any issues with that. But when it comes to color services or treatment, those can absolutely add up for your employees' time and your employees' pay. So we definitely want to avoid customers skipping out on those. So you could tell Shortcut in the cloud, in online booking, that if a customer is booking a color or a treatment or something that requires a little bit more time, now I'm going to ask for a deposit. And you get to choose and set what would be reasonable for your market, for your client base, and for your staff. So how do you figure out what you need? So that depends on the services. So this is something that I mentioned, color, chemical, technical services. So you want to go between a range of 20 to 50% if you're requiring a deposit. You can also set deposits for new customers only. So if you know that your existing client base is good, they never flake on you, then that's fine. But you can set for online booking to only require a deposit from new clients. You can also set flat deposits. So instead of a percentage, you can set it as a dollar amount. So none of this is set in stone. You have the ability to adjust for services, and you can even set rules and different types of rules. Colors are certain amounts, cuts are certain amounts, technical is certain amount. So you can fine tune this throughout the year and try to find the spot where it's going to cut down on your customer no-shows, but it isn't going to necessarily scare customers off of leaving deposits online. So keep it reasonable. Our tip is, of course, high enough to deter no-shows, but not so high as to scare off your client. So this is leading us to the end of our presentation. So we are offering a special program this year. So this is our switch campaign. If you refer a salon or a barber shop or a spa, or in some cases we have been referred tattoo locations. So the things that we're offering is we'll of course send you a Visa gift card, and that customer will of course get training from us, but you and your team will also receive free training from us. So if you want to do review on any of the topics that we discussed today, of course, if you refer a salon to us, you're going to get some complimentary training. And of course, we'll also have a health check consultation to see how you're using the program. Are you taking advantage of all of the features and shortcuts? And believe it or not, we've had customers that have been with us for 15, 20 years that didn't realize that they could be doing some online services or could be doing automated campaigns because it never occurred to them that their clients would necessarily want to have email reminders or email confirmations or text reminders or confirmations. And it just never occurred to them that Shortcut has those features, and they've always had those features available to them. And of course, we have some other goodies whenever we get a referral. So do keep that in mind. So that promotion is what we're focusing on at the start of the year. And of course, for a limited time, there will be a 1 month holiday on the invoice to celebrate our onboard, our new customers. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Here's our contact information. And of course, note our new webpage. So previously we're at shortcuts.net. Our address is shortcutsoftware.com now. I am going to open up the chat window in case you have any questions on anything that I've talked about this morning. So let me bring up the chat and up at the top. Okay. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in and I'll check on this side. And either somebody's writing down a note or they're writing down our contact information. Okay. I don't think we have any questions coming up. So with that said, if you're joining us late, we are recording this presentation and we will send out a link to everybody. If you are watching this presentation after the fact, you can go ahead and reach out to us and we will get back to you. Well, thank you everybody for attending. My name is Noah. I'm with Shortcuts North America, and I look forward to seeing you again in future presentations. Have a great day, everybody.